I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for all of those who have passed away during the week. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Mr. Loscom?
Here.
Mr. Gahan?
Here.
Mr. McGough?
Here. Dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, minutes of the non-uniform municipal pension board meeting held April 23rd, 2014.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3B, minutes of the Scranton Police Pension Commission meeting held April 23rd, 2014.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3C, agenda for the non-uniform municipal pension board meeting held May 28th, 2014.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3D, minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held April 23rd, 2014.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3E, tax assessor's report for the hearing date held June 4th, 2014.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed. Are there any clerk's notes?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Carrera. Do any council members have announcements?
I have two. There will be a fundraiser, Meatballs for Mark. It's a Mark Bucci's medical expense fundraiser. There'll be a pasta dinner held on June 6th from 4 to 7 p.m. That's at the Music United Methodist Church at 609 Main Street in Music, PA. The donation is $7, which includes pasta with meatballs, salad, dinner roll, dessert, and beverages. There will also be basket raffles and 50/50s at the fundraiser. And second, Scranton Street Cats Group will be holding a low-cost spay-neuter clinic at the Kaiser Valley Community Center on June 11th and June 24th. Anyone who is interested can call 570-994-5846 or email epapnline2009@gmail.com to make an appointment. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. Thank you. Flag Day will be celebrated in downtown Scranton at Courthouse Square this Saturday. The program is open to the public and will begin at 1 p.m. The program will honor the founding of the United States Army. The Arts on Fire Festival will be held this Saturday also, and Sunday at the Iron Furnaces. On Saturday, it will be held from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is free admission. There will be art, kids' activities, music, food, and industrial art demonstrations. And finally, First Friday will be held tomorrow evening in downtown Scranton. Please get out and support our local businesses. Thank you.
And I'd like also to mention this week is the week for the Greek Food Festival. And I'm not sure what the name of the church is. It's the Greek Orthodox Church on North Washington. For me, it's one of the best events of the year. Great food. It's the church that is on North Washington, the same corner as Lackawanna College and the Albright Library and the administration building of the school district. It's just great food, and get there early and eat a lot. And would also like to mention that tomorrow is the 70th anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944. I would encourage everyone to seek out a veteran of World War II and just say thank you. As I said many times, that generation is a national treasure, and
that we are losing little by little. And tomorrow would be a great day to go out and commemorate their achievements and what they have accomplished. And I also asked in the back, my trivia question, if anybody would care to look it up, what the D in D-Day stands for. Just something to throw out there while we're sitting here. And that's all.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
First speaker, Andy Sparaglia.
Andy Sparaglia, says Scranton, fellow Scrantonians. Yeah, I had 3 brother-in-laws that served World War II, but unfortunately, it's getting harder and harder to find a vet from that era because they're all in the grave. I don't think our city's financial position has improved too much since the last time I was here. Every time I pick up the paper, we get worse and worse news. Now, I know Boscoff claimed he paid, but I could swear that we were paying 108 loans for Boscoff. So if we were paying 108 loans for Boscoff, Boscoff was not paying. And that was in your money, 108 loans. You know that. Why the paper brought it up in great detail, I know not. I just hope the last money that we lent to Boscoff went to Boscoff and not the mall partners. Does anybody remember where that money went? The last time we lent the money, what was it, about a year ago? 18 months ago? Does it went to Boscoff or the mall partners?
I honestly don't remember.
Well, that's a good thing to check, because it went to the mall partners. He had no intention of paying that loan off. So if you lend it to them, that was sort of a bad way to do it. I wish we had known a little better. I paid more attention to it that time. But our financial situation is not improving. I hope we paid off our TAN on time, like we said we were going to do. So if we assume the TAN is paid off, that at least resolves some of the financial problem. But that 22 million that's growing at 100 and some thousand a month, that isn't going away. It gets worse and worse. And I listened to your financial advisor. Tack on more onto the wage tax, push that way up, raise the real estate tax, sell assets. You didn't need a financial advisor to tell you that. Everybody that sat up there knows what position the city is in. Financial advisor is not needed. What is needed is some type of a workable plan. I still favor filing with the federal Chapter 9 to give us time to redo some of these contracts. The contracts with the city employees run out for another 3 years or 2.5 or 2 3/4, and you can't change them as they're written. If you file Chapter 9, you would be able to negotiate. Everybody believes they deserve a decent wage and a pension, but the way it's going, we cannot guarantee any of that, other than the fact is complete mobilization of the city to pay more taxes than up in Waverly, proportional-wise. The paper already pointed we were close. I think we were ahead. So anytime you vote for a tax increase, you're actually taking people's lives and pushing them backwards. They're losing buying power to give to another group. So 1,000 people is being supported by, I think, 172 or 173,000. Them works do not work out. The proportional wise will not work out. A long time ago, they should have reached out to our neighboring communities and see if we could have joined them. That's what we should have done. But there's too much politics in Scranton. too many people that would say, well, a guy from Dixon City may come up and not like what we're doing in Scranton here, or Dunmore or whatever. But through, that's the only way you're going to increase the base. You got to take in the surrounding communities in some way. Just like when all the boroughs, I guess, joined to form Scranton. Because that's the only survival. We cannot survive with the way it's going. There's no way. We're going to fall down like a house of cards. And we don't even need a stiff wind to do it. We're already at a dangerous tipping point. And raising taxes really isn't a great way of doing it. You're going to make hard decisions. And I'm looking at you. Raising other people's taxes is not a hard decision, especially when you have 12,500 to work with that we don't have. The lower your stipends, that's a hard decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sparaglia. Ozzie Quinn?
Good evening, Ozzie Quinn, Scranton. Good evening. I just want to announce that the Scranton-Lackawanna County Taxpayers Association will meet next Tuesday, June 10, here in Scranton City Hall, Scranton Council's chambers. The guests are Marcel Lisi, who is a candidate for D113, and Melanie Madera, who is a candidate for D114. I'm against decreasing the funding for various programs under 6A and B because the 2010 audit forewarned the OECD staff of what was going on, and they didn't listen to it. And if you read the audit, again, I urge you to read the audit, the finding, it's a mess. It's a mess, the way they kept records. So if a good lawyer could easily go up to Representative Boskov and say, show me the records. They don't have them. Okay, last Monday, I went to the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority meeting for a compromise. We offered $10,000 from the Hill Neighborhood Association for free swimming for 541 kids from the Hill section who are economically disadvantaged under the Scranton School District's free and reduced lunch program. One child, one student, his family can't make over $14,009 for a free lunch. For a reduced lunch, can't make over $21,700 and some. Was treated like a second-class citizen by Mr. Marinucci and as a solicitor, just as the Hill section kids are being treated by the city council, the mayor. Why? Because I want to read you something, okay? This is a resolution passed in 2003 establishing the NAOG boundaries, NAOG pool, their duties within NAOG and whatnot, okay? And in section 1 it says, and I repeated this before in regards to the Scranton, the State Municipal Law Act, the city reserves the right to amend this resolution or any portion thereof from time to time. It shall deem advisable in the best interest of the promotion, the purpose, intent of this resolution, and effective administration thereof. That was approved June 2003, okay? Now, come along, 2011, my research, okay? Resolution 47, 2011, approved July 12, 2011. Amending Resolution number 174, the one I just read, of 2003 by prohibiting the recreational authority from charging city residents a admission fee to the NAOG swim complex. Whereas Section 1, the one I just read, the city reserves the right to amend this resolution or any portion thereof from time to time as it shall deem advisable to the best interest of the promotion of the purpose, so on and so on. The city reserves the right to amend the resolution or any portion thereof. That means you people. You could amend that resolution. You could start right next Thursday and do it, okay? Now let me go on to say, this was approved by a 4-to-1 vote. An affirmative vote, Mr. Rogan, Mr. Loscom, Mr. Joyce, Mrs. Evans. A negative vote, Mr. McGough. It's advertised July 8th, 2011 in the Scranton Times-Tribune. However, on July 22nd, 2011, Mayor Doherty vetoed it. And for some reason, I don't know, City Council didn't follow up on to override the veto. Now, was there somebody on City Council that folded? I don't know. And I'm not blaming anybody. But if they had the only one that would know would probably be Mrs. Evans. She was the chairman, who probably would tell you what was going on. But you had it there. You had the ball in your hands, and you folded. The council folded. Don't fold again. You can. You have the right. You have the law on your side to change that resolution, to amend that resolution to let those kids swim. You know, Mr. Marinucci, he thinks he owns NAOG, and he doesn't. So please, do something about it, okay? And try to consider changing that resolution at next Thursday's meeting, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Deb Niehaus?
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Deb Niehaus, Scranton. Well, I haven't been here in a few weeks. My car was parked and was totaled by a car that was passing by, so without transportation, it's been difficult to follow up on a couple different things I mentioned last time I was here. But by way of preliminary comments, I too really had a good time at the Armed Forces Day Parade recently. I know it's been a few weeks, but it had a respectable crowd, and I think I saw a lot of smiles, a lot of people really excited about the parade, so I see good things in that parade's future. I don't think we need to have massive amounts of people, but maybe just a bit more to make it even more fun. And also, I mentioned last time I was here about starting a group that would work with the city on all kinds of projects. Some being very simple, just to beautify streets, neighborhoods, and other things that are a little more complicated. And I met with a young man from the county by the last name of Menorah, I believe. I think. He was wonderful. It was great. He told me about the entrepreneurial launch pad,
My nephew, Chris.
Okay, Chris. Great young man. It was, I mean, really went beyond the call of duty to instruct me on how to take use of the space that's offered by the county, and very, very helpful and accommodating, and so I absolutely want to follow up on that, but it's a little hard for me right now until I get a vehicle. But anyway, I look forward to working with him. He was just, I can't say enough about some of the people working for the county. Now, the reason why I came tonight is going to mix things up a little bit. Has nothing to do with a lot of the things that I would like to weigh in on, but it's something that I mentioned, I think almost 3 years ago initially, and that was, I think I wrote Councilman Loscom an email regarding taking a look at our current noise ordinance in Scranton, and perhaps, I think I also mentioned to you a year later in a follow-up email in 2013, where we stood with that. And I don't even know if I got a response at that point. I know the city was having all kinds of issues at that point. But in any event, I'd like to, unless there's a reason not to, provide and actually read into the record an ordinance that I found. Actually, it's a program and it's a paper that was drafted by Elkhart, Indiana, their police department working with their city council and citizens on noise and how they addressed noise in their city. And I'd like to read that now. The title of it is Elkhart, Indiana Noise Ordinance Yields Drugs and Weapons Arrests and Pays for Itself. Noise is unhealthy, unnecessary, illegal, and expensive. And then you have the name of Dick Moore, mayor of Elkhart, Indiana. And I found this on www.noisefree.org, which is an organization that tries to, I guess, end unhealthy noise. And I'll just read it now. Elkhart, Indiana is a town of around 52,000 people near the University of Notre Dame. It's an anti-noise success story. The city's anti-noise program relies on active enforcement of noise ordinances to reduce noise. The strict fines from noise enforcement generate revenues to fund a noise enforcement officer and anti-noise publicity. Also, the lessening noise levels have improved the community's quality of life and reduced crime. And this is the mayor speaking here. In 2008, I told the Common Council, which is their city council, we are determined to eradicate noise pollution in our city from boom boxes, broken mufflers, train whistles, loud motorcycles, and other sources by initiating a zero-tolerance noise ordinance. Police Chief Phil Flipson and I recently hired a noise control police officer. In 2009, the officer issued 1,200 tickets, generating more than $273,000 in fines. In 2 years, noise fines have generated more than $400,000. Now you might think, well, $400,000, that's not a lot of money. But this is an example of one area, one aspect of city life being addressed and raising revenue. If we could do something like this, look into other areas where we could improve, we could generate money and that it would add up, you know, things add up. Let me continue, please. May I continue to finish this?
Please.
The fines not only deter noise and punish noisemakers, they also fund the anti-noise program. Noise fine revenues have been used to equip 2 Mustangs as unmarked police vehicles, as well as produce and distribute public service announcements on the hazards of noise. Fines for noise violators in Elkhart are stiff: $250 first offense, $500 second, $1,000 third offense, and $2,500 for a 4th offense. Last year, Elkhart's noise control officer did more drug busts than any other Elkhart police officer, and he was looking for noise violators, not drugs. Elkhart's experience demonstrates the strong link between noise, guns, drugs, gangs, and crime. Elkhart officials are enthusiastic about the anti-noise program. According to the chief, the noise ordinance has had a positive impact on the city's quality of life, and residents are saying it has been a great tool to reduce crime. Now, they go on and they provide, well, let me just read what Ted Reuter, Noise Free America's director, stated. Elkhart's anti-noise program is a model for the nation. No taxpayer money is involved. The noisemakers themselves fund the program. If every community took noise enforcement seriously, crime would be reduced significantly. So I don't think it's always a matter of just hiring more boots on the ground. It's working smarter, not necessarily harder, by doing stuff like this. So I have this, and if anybody wants a copy, I'd be glad to give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Miller?
Good evening, Doug Miller, Scranton.
Good evening.
Appreciate Ms. Newhouse bringing up the idea of a noise ordinance. I just hope next year when the tax bill comes out, hopefully it won't be in effect by then, because I can expect a lot of noise throughout the city. But you know, the reason I'm here tonight, I've been here for a few weeks, and obviously an awful lot's going on. We've heard from our illustrious financial advisor, Amoroso, who you know, continues to offer, you know, nothing productive, nothing that we haven't already discussed, or, you know, solutions that at this point in time just simply aren't realistic considering the city's financial stake and most of all the financial situation that the residents across the city are in. You know, in regards to the union settlement, I have sympathy for these individuals, and I have a lot of respect for them, but, you know, as speakers have stated within the last few weeks, I think it's time we finally stand up and let a little reality set in for once and realize one thing. This money just simply isn't coming right now. And anybody that thinks it is, I just quite frankly think is delusional. And we have to stop lying to ourselves and thinking that these things are going to happen. You know, selling the sewer authority, it's not a solution. How many assets have we sold through the years? And what has it done for us? It's provided a one-time revenue source. The money's there, we use it, and it's gone. And we lose an asset that, you know, a lot of the residents through the years worked very hard for us to be able to have these assets and to hang on to them for future generations. But we continue to give them away. The idea of selling the parking garages is absolutely absurd. We don't even know what they're worth. We understand millions and millions of dollars in repairs need to be made. We can't even maintain them. It's pathetic. And so we're going to go and sell parking garages, and we're not even going to get what's owed on them, most likely. That's not a solution. We heard Mr. Amoroso talk about a pension tax. I mean, that was the tip of the iceberg for me. When I read that statement, I had asked myself one question. Is this guy out of his mind or what? Does he take the time to actually look at this city as a whole? It's nice to come in here and pinpoint a PowerPoint and put numbers on a screen, but does he live here? Does he live the life of a Scranton resident? Does he know what it's like to get a tax bill, 57%, to pay a $300 garbage bill? No, I don't think he does. And again, this goes back to we're dealing with somebody who has zero credibility to begin with, the way he mismanaged the things that he had control of. So we're going to listen to his input because we have an administration that can't implement a plan on its own. We need this character to come in from New York and basically come in and tell us things that we've already heard from Pell and others, raise taxes, sell assets. Yeah, I'm glad he's here. You know, we had a mayor who ran on an alleged plan. We've yet to hear it. We have a council. All we hear is, oh, we get along, we work together. But other than that, it's business as usual. And I ask myself many times, what's changed with this administration as opposed to the previous administration? It's the same politics. I had somebody tell me, they made a very good point. The only thing that changed from this administration to the previous administration is the name. Other than that, it's business as usual in Scranton. And you know what? I tend to agree with that. Because I haven't seen since January, I haven't seen one thing happen that's been beneficial to the residents of the city other than the same old tired silliness and political rhetoric. And I think it's time that we finally face the fact that, yeah, there's more pain and suffering down the road. Believe me, there is. There's no light at the end of this tunnel in the near future. Because we're dealing with people that are incapable of implementing plans. We've elected people who've never taken the time to be involved. They've run for office, they've talked a good game, they've ran on the same messages as every other candidate, but they've never taken the time to become involved. And yet we elect these people. And at the end of the day, you know, you have a difficult time blaming the elected official because the voter has to look themselves in the mirror. Because they went out on election day and they made the decision to put these people in the seats they chose to put in here. And so they have to hold themselves responsible because ultimately they've punished themselves and they've allowed these things to take place because they haven't educated themselves on the candidates and they haven't educated themselves on what's going on in the city. And yet they're the first ones to stand up, moan and groan when they get their garbage bill and their tax bill. Yet these are the same people that aren't willing to stand up and do something to help themselves. And it's very sad. And I absolutely have zero confidence in this administration. I have zero confidence in just about everything going on here. And, you know, we talk about a SAFER grant. You know, I think that's comical too because, you know, we talk about funding coming from a federal government that doesn't have any money themselves. And so there's no reason to have any optimism. But finally, in conclusion, I just want to let everyone know that I will be sponsoring, I've organized a pasta dinner to benefit free swimming at NAOG. It will take place on Sunday, June 29th at the Villa Maria 2, 1610 Washburn Street, over in West Side. It will run from 12 to 6. There is a $10 admission fee. And I'd encourage residents across the city to take advantage of this, you know, working in coordination with Ozzie and the Hill Neighborhood Group. We want to ensure that the children have their luxury and that they're given the opportunity to swim. And, you know, I appreciate Ozzie bringing up the ordinance on council having the ability to abolish that fee. And I'd hope you'd actually take the initiative because you have the ability to do it. And give the luxury back to these kids that you took away. And as Mr. McGough being the dissenting vote, when this was initiated, he now has the ability to put it back on the agenda and give them the luxury that he and others took away through the years, and give them what they're entitled to, since these kids have to suffer now because we're so incapable of managing our assets, that we give them away and we can't manage the ones we have. This is what has to happen. You have the ability to do it. Forget the Recreation Authority. This is our city, and we need to provide the children and the people in the city with the luxuries that they deserve. And I'd hope you do it, because it's not a laughing matter. It's not a joke. People have suffered long enough, and maybe finally you could actually do something productive instead of continuing to play games. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Jackowitz?
Good evening, Scranton City Council. Good evening, Jamie, Kathleen, Kathy, and Emil, and also Jim Lockwood from the Scranton Times. He's a regular here. Swimming. Topic again. I've been fighting this battle for 7 years. I don't think we could ever go back to free swimming again at Narrock Park. I would love to see that. But I do believe City Council can, within their authority, if they really wanted to, get that swimming fee down to $2.50 or $3 a day from $5. That much I do believe. I think if City Council really wanted to push the issue and wanted to do something to help the kids out in all the city, not just the hill section, but the entire city, they can get that fee reduced down to at least $2.50 or $3 a day instead of $5 a day. If you can't get it done this year, then you need to work real hard at it and get it done next year. Okay, cameras. Whatever happened to the $250,000 cameras we bought about 5 years ago? There's one on Mulberry Street at the Turkey Hill, there's one on the 500 or 600 block of Cedar Avenue, and several other ones. That's $250,000 of taxpayers' money. Whatever happened to those cameras? Are they still mounted? Do they work? Are they used for anything? Or are they just sitting there for pigeon droppings? Seriously, what happened to those cameras? And you can answer during motions, please. Okay, I would like to have an update, also doing motions, and I would like opinions on whether the city of Scranton is in better shape in 5 June of 2014 than they were in 5 June 2013. Are we in better shape now financially, economically, across the board? Are we in better shape now in 2014 than we were in 2013? My answer is, I don't think so. I think we're in worse shape. And I think we continue to, nothing ever seems to get accomplished. We have a lot of meetings, you know, there's a lot of things going on about the arbitration award. I don't think that our arbitration award should be kept secret. I think that should be put out to the public, because the public is the one who has to pay that bill. Okay? And it was caused by the elected officials. That's who caused it. So someone has to have answers. We need to know when and where are we going to get this money? Are we ever going to get this money? Again, my personal answer is no. No one will ever loan the city of Scranton the money to pay the police and fire arbitration awards, because I think it would be a bad bet. We need to know what's going on. Who are we talking to? How many banks are involved in this? And what is the status and progress? And I hope someone will give that information. Maybe not tonight, but maybe next week or the week down the road, because the citizens want to know. I want to know. Okay? Now, overall, to be quite honest with you, you know, the city, the country, the state, everything basically stinks right about now. We have people who walk away from a war zone, basically a deserter, being called a war hero by our administration. He walked away from it. He caused, indirectly, allegedly, 6 people to be killed in a war. But yet he's being applauded by our government and our elected officials. We have VA hospitals where vets are dying. No one's doing anything about that. We have problems right here in the city of Scranton, again, where I don't think anybody's doing anything about them. So again, in one word, I think the government and the system right now really stinks.
Thank you.
Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, city resident. I read in the Times Tribune this week about proposed legislation down in Harrisburg with regard to distressed status of cities. And the legislation is trying to put a cap on the length of time a city can remain in distressed status. Now, I don't know whether or not that legislation is going to pass. If it does pass, how soon? But if it did pass, I think that's going to have an impact on Scranton, because we're not going to be able to continue in distressed status indefinitely, which means even without this legislation, the city needs a sense of urgency about its financial status. As of today, the mayor is completing 5 months in office. I would imagine he had the beginnings of a plan, what he wanted to do with the city to get it out of distressed status when he was a candidate. Certainly having 5 months in office, the assistance of Mr. Amoroso, the financial consultants that he's hired should have helped him come up with the beginnings of a plan. So I would ask him and the city leadership to tell the public what he intends to do so that the city ends this year in the black and has a plan to end distressed status. I'm a stakeholder. I'm a taxpayer, which makes me a stakeholder in Scranton. I have neither the desire nor the capability to leave the city. So I'm here until they plow me under, okay? I know there are going to be hard decisions made. By hard, I mean that it's probably going to come out of my pocketbook, my bank account. But I would rather be told what the plan is than just to drift on by reading story after story about how bad things are getting, okay? Even if you give me a bad plan, we can debate it, maybe come up with some better ideas. But having no plan makes me very paranoid. And I'm too old to be paranoid. It's not good for my digestive tract. On another issue, today's June 5th. We're now 5 days late for the city audit for last year, and I'm hoping we don't have another audit that's published on November 22nd, when the next year's operating budget is due to City Council on the 15th of November. Let's hope that the audit's not going to be anywhere near that late. Also, I'm just curious, anything happening at Goodwill?
Not yet.
Oh, God. You know, my heart can't take it. If you ever tell me something's happening, I'll probably collapse at the podium. Can we just like cut them off and cut our losses and maybe get some money back? I mean, we're just, you know.
The city didn't put any. The vote that we had, what was it, about 2-3 months ago, it wasn't to put any additional city money into the project. The last that we heard was Goodwill was going through the process of trying to get HUD vouchers.
Yeah, but either they did or they didn't.
Right.
I mean, somebody should maybe ask them, you know, what are you doing?
I'll check with Ms. Avery.
They were able to be here in early January. You know, maybe they could come back and give us a 6-month update or something. That's such a shame, you know, what we did with that. But I'm one of those people that would like to hear from Mr. Amoroso one more time before he takes that last plane to New York, because he's in the last month of his contract. Just like to see, you know, what he told the mayor and the other city officials. Whether they take it or not, I don't know. But I think it's time for the mayor to tell the public what his plan is. I'm ready to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to address council?
Good evening, council. Dave Dobson, resident. All taxes paid, all fees paid. And I'd appreciate if people that own a half dozen houses in this town and are delinquent for years in their fees, if they would pay. And maybe we wouldn't be so financially distressed. And on this issue with the mall, and I asked, we know how done it, well, who done it, is important, because someday they might be in another position to do even worse. So it would be very interesting to find out who done it on these loans and how it was done and why the money wasn't redirected to the right source. And Mr. Amoroso, once again, we have an issue with that sewer authority. We don't need to add icing on a cake by doubling our sewer bill for some hedge fund manager with a lot of money from an oil company or whatever. The water company in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, they pay double of what we pay. And if I combine my sewer and my trash fees, I'd like to remind everybody that you're getting about 200 or 300% higher than my city taxes. So, you know, it's up to you whether you want the money or you want to hand it to somebody else, because that is a very bad idea. I would call it the coup de grace plan. On the power lines at Naog Park, obviously, by what I heard last week, they were put there illegally. That section wasn't used before, but now it's used. And it would be interesting to at least see some kind of account of money coming in. And I'd like to mention, you know, it seems like when I pull out of a corner, I look up and down, or look, if I'm turning right, I look to my left, and I don't see anybody for half a block. And as soon as I get out there, they're there slamming on their horn. And it's my suspicion that either maybe I'm not seeing them quick enough, or there's somebody in the way, or they're speeding. And they're speeding at, like, on Cedar Avenue, maybe down around Chamberlain at somewhere around 45 miles an hour, which they shouldn't be doing any more than 25. And it would be better at 14 or 15. Yesterday, I was on my way up Harrison Avenue, and a kid jumped out in front of me on a bike. Now, I wasn't driving, but I was in two cars where people were hit. A kid ran catty corner at North Scranton and ran right into the hood of the car. Didn't get hurt very bad, but his parents were proud enough to sue for something like $19,000. And another time I seen a kid's face plastered into the side door window. He came out of the alley on a bike and ran into the car. And it's not fun. It's not fun to see somebody going out the hood. And if your car gets wrecked, well, but we really need to start doing something about speeding in this town. And I saw something alarming on Hickory Street. I see a bunch of yellow letters all over the street that was just recently paved. Jack, you didn't tell them, did you? No?
Isn't your name on there too?
No. No, I think the name is the gas company, so I'm hoping that if they tear everything up now that we have a nice street, that they'll fix it. And once again, call your congressmen, call the president, call your senators, tell them to take their trade pact and can it, because we have too many unemployed, and it's not sufficient to give yourself absolution by calling them 47%ers. And also, I'd like to make a mention, I never served in the military, but I've been watching a lot of this on vet advocacy. We had a general in charge of the VA retire or resign, and these vets are waiting with phony waiting lists forever to get care that they were guaranteed when they signed up. And Bernie Sanders introduced the bill from Vermont, Senator, in February, and 41 senators filibustered against opening 27 new veteran service centers and so forth at a cost of something like $21 or $26 billion. And they're all crying about their chillins or something. So give your congressman a call on that too. Thank you and have a good night. By the way, that is a local issue because you have probably vets that aren't being serviced here.
Good evening, Marie Schumacher.
Good evening.
I'd like to go back to last year in January. I believe it was the January 16th caucus. Mr. McGough, you said you would have the legislation scanned and sent to members a week before it was put on the agenda. Did that happen? And if it happened, I know last year, going back to last year, the now Mayor Courtwright said he would be in favor of doing that, of posting it and making that available to everyone. Did that happen? Yes or no?
We have asked that legislation be sent to the office by Friday of the week before the meeting, and for the most part that has been done.
So if it's scanned in, then wouldn't it be just as easy to put that on the website so everybody could see that? For instance, I would love to see the list of who is losing how much money on 6A on the funding for OECD. And, you know, it was on last week's, and if you don't get in last week and I didn't get in, I'll call the office tomorrow, but I think as long as it's scanned in, I don't know why it can't, whatever's available to council can't be made available to the general public. But that's just me. Next, also in a prior caucus, it was stated that a proposal had been sent to DCED regarding the court award. Has that been, have we heard back from DCED at all on that, or is it still?
I believe that that's still in negotiation.
Oh, it's a negotiation with DCED or with our employees? Or former employees?
I believe that it's a negotiation involving all of the interested parties.
Okay, and is there a time when that might be resolved?
I believe that next week there is a meeting in Harrisburg with the business administrator and other, some of the state agencies.
Okay.
The exact nature of that meeting, I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. Last month, it was stated that the bondholder for the Scranton Parking Authority had been in and that they were interested in providing capital, that they had a lot of capital to provide to municipalities. Has anything been done to take advantage of that as yet that do you know?
I believe Mr. Bolzoni is working with, the group was AMBAC.
Yeah.
That while it may not be for this year, that they are looking to at least negotiate with AMBAC for future, I'll say TAN and other investments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rogan, it is now getting close to mid-year, and I would once again like to know the status of the Alexander loan with that sweet interest rate of 0.5%. When is that going to be sustained, or when will we hear something about that?
I did bring this up in a meeting, I believe it was about 3 weeks ago with Ms. Abley, that if the legislation sunsets and no action is taken, it will go back to the original rate. What has happened is, and I don't think that there's anyone who wants to keep it at 0.5%. I didn't want that rate to begin with, but as it's close to a year proposal as a stopgap, I think council at the time thought it was fair. What we need to do, and I've said this over and over with these loans, is go through each one of them and try to work with, if they're businesses who are paying, making partial payments, try to work with them where we can. But we can't give away the farm with a 0.5% interest either. I think it will be brought back up to city council, not at a 0.5% interest though.
Well, I mean, it was stated it was only for 6 months.
Right.
And
Right.
the 6-month expires this, at the end of June.
If the 6
so-
months expires, it goes back to the original terms.
Okay, thank you. And also, as long as we're talking, I know when the proposal for the trash fee went up, you were in favor of a single bag issue, but you did not, you said you had nothing to back that up on what the price might be per bag. Are you planning to use some of the council money to do a study on that?
Well, I don't know about us, if we have the money to do a study on how much it would cost, but looking at other communities, which is something I have done, I know in Old Forge it's $3 a bag for garbage. Other communities are a little bit higher. It's something I support only because I think it should be, people who use more should pay more, and people who use less should pay less.
But we need to know what that is. I mean, Scranton's got,
Right.
I've got a lot more, but I'll be back hopefully next week, but also interested, and I hope we have it next week, is the year-end status. We now have five months of the year with the biggest, our biggest revenue items pretty well, should be on a glide slope by now, so we should have some forecast of where we're going to end the year, and I look forward to hearing that very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. McGough, I don't know if you would entertain doing something with the fee structure for the pools in Scranton, but if you could find a way to introduce something meaningful, whatever that may be, I think the residents in the city would really appreciate that. The other thing I have here tonight is, you know, for decades, coming here for a couple decades, people used to laugh about these meetings and thought they were silly. And they really didn't really see the whole picture, and they really didn't understand a lot, but they thought it was entertaining. And I guess now the show has ended, only we didn't pay admission going in, but we're paying it coming out. And there aren't very many happy people out here. And, you know, I mean, I talked about bankruptcy for a long time. I still think it's really the only option. I think the American people have been in a daydream state for a long time because every branch of our government is broken from the top right down to the very bottom. And I think the voters and the residents think that, you know, their vote is just a waste of time. But if they don't come back to the polls and do something soon, I think our only hope, as crazy as it might sound, is some kind of revolution on the ground, because that's what brought us to this country. This is how this country was founded. We got tired of the British pounding the whatever you want to call out of us, and some people stood up and did something about it. And when as a Scrantonian, as I look at the debt we're facing, and the solutions we've had, and the solutions we've tried, and the troubles ahead of us, and then, you know, my question here is real simple. Why weren't the people who mismanaged this city for decades prosecuted and put in jail? And why does it take the federal government so long to step in on every issue? And then, of course, who's watching the feds? But, you know, listening to residents in the city talk about what's taking place now, they think it's comical. They just don't see how this can actually take place. When we come up with, you know, how does a pension fund fall this far behind? What were the representatives of the union doing as this was taking place? As the city itself decayed over decades, where was everybody in elective office that were taking these votes? And how did they come to the conclusions that any of these votes were in the best interest of the residents? Is it going to be in the best interest of the residents if we lose firemen again? I mean, you know, There's a lot of situations going on in this city, even at times where police officers don't even show up for hearings. Is it because we don't have enough police? We have a lot of very serious problems here. And another tax increase isn't going to be the answer. And, you know, with all due respect to you, Mr. Rogan, charging $5 for a bag of garbage is ridiculous. Because, to be honest with you, the reason we're charging these fees is because we've mismanaged our assets, not just Scranton, tons of communities. And to keep coming back, give this a little thought. $20,000 allegedly is the average earning capacity of a Scrantonian. And, you know, when I listen to Mr. Yudichak talk on talk radio here, he's giving us political talking points instead of talking about reality. He's talking about 25% of children living in poverty. Well, why are all our jobs in other countries? Because if the child's in poverty, then I guess the parents are in poverty too. I mean, we've just taken a country right to its knees, and my question is, are the residents in this country ever going to stand up to this government and tell them we can't pay any more, start prosecuting the people we've elected that run around dressed funny with suits on and skirts and blouses and make themselves look like professionals? But really, I don't know, I won't call them thieves, but I don't know what to call them, because how can every branch of government be broke, and how can the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania talk about being $50 billion short on state pension funds? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. People like Doug Miller or Mr. Gahan, I just don't see what kind of life you're going to have. I mean, where is it going to lead us to? Where is all this money going to come from? Why are all the big corporations moving their money outside the country and contributing nothing to our society? Because the Congress and Senate left them do it. It's not a Democrat-Republican issue. It's elected officials who don't serve the people who elect them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address council?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Wetzel?
Thank you, Mr. McGough. In regards to some of the comments that were made today, I do have some information here received from the single tax office about at least where our collections are for our city so far this year. To date on real estate taxes, we have collected $19,731,000. That's compared to last year's total of $12,730,000, which is a 55% increase on that number. Our delinquent real estate taxes are up 6.96%. Our LST and EMS collections are up 7.84%. And our business and privilege and mercantile tax are down a slight 1.48%. And in light of this economy, I think that should be called about even. If you look at it as a whole, to date we've collected $20 million against a $28 million budgeted amount. So as the year is going on, the collections are coming in. We do have more money. Is it enough? We don't know that yet. In terms of some of the other things that have been saying, I disagree with a lot of it that was said about this council and the administration not accomplishing anything yet this year. So far, we've passed a couple different pieces of legislation that have helped some smaller business owners here in the city and protected our people. The administration has been very successful in communicating with the neighborhoods, very successful communicating through the police department, very successful communicating with the fire department. The Business Administrative Office is beginning to get the financial house and records together. We've been able to talk to several different banks who showed no interest in dealing with us in the past. And it's June. And I would love to say we have an answer in my briefcase sitting here, but we don't. We don't have an answer. And we are working towards it. Until we start working with our budget for next year, that's when there's going to be a plan. There won't be a plan. I don't see a plan coming out anywhere towards the end of the summer. But and working together, a lot of people say that's not a good thing, but how are we going to accomplish anything if we don't work together? And we are. In terms of the state legislature, I was disappointed in them passing a legislation to say that you have to be done with your status in a short period of time without adding any assistance to that, that doesn't help us at all. I was happy that our local group of legislators tried to get that legislation changed, and unfortunately they were unsuccessful. But in conclusion, there are things happening here. The outlook that I get, I talk to a lot of people that aren't paying more taxes, but I talk to a lot of people who are very happy with the progress that is being made in the city. I think this council has provided a new face for our city. I think we've added a professional atmosphere to our council meetings, and we are accomplishing a lot. We're working on a lot, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you, Mr. McGough.
Mr. Rogan? Yes, thank you. Just a few quick comments. During our caucus, we talked a little bit about many of the vacant lots in the city and the possibility of having Mr. Koljeski from the Tax Claim Bureau come into a caucus to explain the process of how an individual would go about purchasing a property that's adjacent to them. For instance, I spoke to an individual this week, and I have to get back in touch with them to try to help them through the process. They own a piece of property, and next to them is a lot that's been vacant for many, many years. And that lot is sitting there, it's not paying taxes. It's government owned. That land isn't doing any good for anyone. And if you walk through any neighborhood in the city of Scranton, you'll see these lots everywhere, from where there were vacant buildings. At one point they were torn down, where there were fires. And some of them are owned and people are paying taxes on them, but many, many more are government owned. And vacant lots throughout the city, they don't do anything good for the city or for the taxpayer. They create blight in the neighborhoods, and we see the high grass, we see the problems with them. But by giving residents an opportunity to purchase those properties and improve their property, adding a pool, adding a driveway, adding extra land to have a garden and have their kids play, that's one thing that we could do that could solve multiple problems in the city at one time. We will get in the revenue once they're sold. They'll get back on the tax rolls. We'll bring in that tax revenue, and it'll make the neighborhoods a nicer place because you'll have people taking care of that land instead of the grass growing 3 foot high and no one taking care of it. So that being said, Ms. Carrera, could we please send a letter to Mr. Koljeski requesting that he attends one of our caucuses to discuss these issues at his convenience? I think we all agreed that it would be good to have him in, hear a little bit more about the process from the county end, and try to work to make this process a little more easy. Next, regarding the pools, I know this has been an issue that was brought up many, many times. About a month ago, we sent a letter to City Engineer John Pochis requesting the status of the pools and an itemized list of what needed to be done to get those pools operational. Could we also send a follow-up on that to see if there has been any action taken? I know it is a tall task. There are a number of pools in the city and a number of parts in each one of the pools, but I think we really need to see where each one of these stand and look towards solutions so we don't have vacant pools sitting there, whether it's putting in splash parks or doing something that the children in the neighborhoods could use. And finally, I spoke to the mayor today regarding some issues regarding East Mountain Road. On East Mountain, I know Councilman Wexler is very familiar with this road, but on the road, there seems to be a split in the middle when the pavement was laid that seems to be coming apart. And it seems the solution would be to lay a strip of tar. I did talk to the mayor about it. He's going to reach out to the sewer authority to see what can be done. I know when Councilman Reap was on city council, he fought very, very hard to see that project come to be, and it's much nicer driving up East Mountain Road now than it was prior to that project. So I think we need to work to protect that road and keep it in good shape so we're not going back and spending another $10 million in 10 years to repave that road and to revamp it. And also on East Mountain Road, I did get an email from a resident who was requesting the sewer authority come out and check out the catch basins. And just a couple quick comments on some of the things that were brought up tonight. comparing this council and this administration to the last council and the last administration. And as somebody who was on council during both of those times, I could tell you things get done a lot easier and a lot smoother now. You may not always see it, but when it comes to us getting information before we have to make a vote, all of the city department heads have been much more forthcoming than in the previous administration. And that makes it a lot easier for the members of council to make an informed decision, whether it be financial documents, whether it be regarding OECD or any of our departments. It has been much easier to get answers from this administration than the previous administration. And as far as council goes, I know this has been brought up, but our caucuses have been very helpful prior to the meetings to discuss other issues that oftentimes we haven't been able to discuss on the floor. The issue of the vacant lots, for example, is an issue that was brought up at the caucus. We tossed it around. We all talked about it. Our solicitor gave a lot of positive input on a way to go, and we're going to move forward with that. We're going to have a meeting with the county and see what can be done. So I am a lot happier now, and I think things are moving a lot better now. But as Mr. Wexler mentioned, budget time is really when you're going to see the changes. We're going to see how many banks come to the table for a TAN. Hopefully more than one or two this year. Maybe, maybe not. We're going to see what that interest rate is. And even more importantly than the interest rate, we're going to see what the fees attached to that TAN are. Because the fees on the TAN are something in the last 2 years of the previous administration were outrageous when you compare ours to the counties. So the city didn't get into the shape it is in 5 months. It was 50 years in the making. We're hoping it doesn't take that long to get out, but things won't change overnight. But slowly, we have been making progress. One piece of legislation up for a final vote, something that myself, Councilman Wexler, and the administration worked on to help local bands and bar owners, exempting them from the amusement tax if they have a small number of people at their venue. That's something that many bands contacted me. I know some bar owners contacted Councilman Wexler. We worked with the administration to solve it. It's not a major problem, but to those groups it was. To the person who runs the corner bar in West Side, who makes his living doing that, that's important to him. And that person also pays property taxes and pays mercantile taxes. So there are many of these small issues that we need to address to help solve many of the big issues. But I know, speak for all of us, that we're all up for the task and we're all here to do the best we can. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I would have to echo the sentiments of my colleagues who spoke before me. I agree with their comments, Mr. Wexler, Mr. Rogan. So I won't elaborate on that because it would be repetitious. But just to touch on a couple of things that were mentioned here this evening, Ms. Nyhouse, the noise ordinance, that's a very good, I know we had been in touch before. I do want to get the information again from you and sit down with the police chief. I think we have a much better opportunity now of getting things done. Just because of the communication and everything too. There is a lot more cooperation, as was stated. But I think this is a very good idea. More people realize the noise now as the summer season comes on, but there are people like yourself that put up with it year-round, and you know, no one should have to live like that. But if we can actively enforce this, and at the same time, it would help, it would benefit everyone. So I'll definitely be getting together with you to get that information and some contact information. Perhaps if I meet the chief, I may be able to have you along too, to discuss some of these issues. Okay? And Mr. Jackowitz had asked about the cameras. Yes, the cameras are active. They are being monitored. And actually, when I met with the chief last time, he had discussed with me how one of the cameras on Mulberry Street had helped them with the situation where there was a gentleman in a vehicle. They were able to pan on the vehicle and get the information before the police officers got there to see if the man was armed and stuff like that. I guess it was a attempted robbery type setup, but they are being used, and with the enhancements that will be coming with the things that we have approved so far, with the expansion of using private cameras that are already in existence. I think as a crime-fighting tool, it's another big asset to the citizens of the city. But they are, and they're being monitored by the people at the desk in police headquarters there, the police officers there. But if you need any additional information, I'd be happy to provide that. But I think that's about all I have. Oh, just quickly, Goodwill was mentioned. I was just wondering if, on behalf of my colleagues, if we can send a letter to Goodwill to just ask what their latest status is and, to update us, because we are receiving a lot of questions, and, it has been a long process. Okay? That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes, thank you. I received a letter from the Greater Scranton Board of Realtors May 30th in support of the Scranton-Abington Planning Association. As council awaits that legislation to return so that we can vote on it, I'd like to read that letter into the record. Dear Mr. Gahan, the Board of Directors of the Greater Scranton Board of Realtors recently heard a presentation from the Scranton-Abington's Planning Association regarding the comprehensive plan and land use map which was prepared by the planning group McCormick Taylor. The presentation was later followed by a discussion by our Board of Directors on the plan. Following that discussion, it was decided that the Greater Scranton Board of Realtors recommend to the City of Scranton that they again become an active partner in this multi-municipal planning effort. To be effective, it is imperative that the City of Scranton be a participant in this effort. Such a plan would be a great asset to the area by designating categorized target areas in the Greater Scranton area to better plan for the growth of the area. The potential for economic growth within the City of Scranton and a regionalized approach to planning were key reasons for our support. We would urge you, along with other Scranton officials, to approve participation in the Scranton-Abington Planning Association, along with the continued work on the comprehensive plan and land use map. If you should have questions or need additional information on this matter, please feel free to contact me. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Sincerely yours, Wayne E. Evans. June 9th to June 13th, the street sweeper will be in the Bunker Hill section of East Scranton. That's Wheeler Avenue to Matthew Avenue, including the Oakmont section. And finally, tonight it was a few speakers had comments about a plan from the mayor. I had asked that question about what the plan was from the mayor a few months ago, what the course of action was, and I've been waiting just as everyone else has been waiting. I did ask President McGough when Mr. Amoroso was supposed to come back to council and give his final presentation. We're still waiting on that. So we shall see, but I understand the anxious feeling of the residents of the city. We are waiting to hear what the plan is and what the course of action is over the next few months. Because as we continue to wait, we continue to get closer to next year's budget, and difficult and tough decisions will have to be made. And that is all I have. Thank you.
I did want to make mention, I should have done this earlier when we did announcements, that there is a traffic update for Jefferson Avenue where the University of Scranton construction is taking place. It's the 200 block of Jefferson. This Saturday from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The two right-hand lanes of Jefferson Avenue will be closed, and there'll be one-way traffic north and one-way traffic south from 6 to 8 a.m. or 6 to 8 p.m. 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'm sorry. So please, if you're traveling in that area, you could probably expect that there will be some delays because of the lane closures. Also, it's being done so that a large crane can be brought in that will be involved in the steelwork for the building, and that crane is supposed to be in place until August 1st. It will not affect street traffic as such after Saturday, but I'm told that they are going to be changing some of the pedestrian traffic to accommodate the crane and the construction that will be taking place at that time. As far as the plan for the city, I don't think that there's any secret as to what the plan is. I think that actually it's a pretty simple plan. We need to negotiate the payment of the arbitration awards. That's an ongoing process. We need to find a way to refund the pensions. That's an ongoing process. We need to do something to stabilize the parking situation and the situation with the parking authority. That's an ongoing process. We need to find a way to reduce our debt payments. That's an ongoing process. All of this aimed at, in the long term, restoring somewhat the city's credit rating so that we can operate in the investment community, so that we can work with banks to stabilize the city's finances. Now, how we go about doing all of these things is what I guess constitutes the integral part of the plan. Again, it's an ongoing process. It's something that is going to take time to complete. I think that what we're looking at is probably trying to restore the credit rating within a 2-year period. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And as far as Mr. Amoroso is concerned, I think, again, we have to remember that whatever Mr. Amoroso presents to us is not a guarantee that the city will follow. He is merely making recommendations, and it will be up to the city, the administration, and the council to determine which of these recommendations we feel are best for the city of Scranton. So yes, is there a little bit of apprehension waiting for Mr. Amoroso's recommendations? Yes. But in the meantime, we are not sitting back and just waiting. There are ongoing considerations, ongoing negotiations, and hopefully some of the problems that we have will be solved even prior to the recommendations of Mr. Amoroso, hopefully. And that is all I have. Thank you.
5B, no business at this time. Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the council number 28, 2014, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to take all necessary actions to implement numerous accounting adjustments to the city of Scranton's IDIS system for community development block grant funds by decreasing funding for various programs to account for deficiencies in the city of Scranton's line of credit with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, due to unplanned Section 108 payments by the city of Scranton in the amount of $1,662,043.98.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved.
6B, reading by title, file of the council number 29, 2014, an ordinance amending file of the council number 56 of 2012 titled authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to take all necessary actions to implement the consolidated submission for community planning and development programs to be funded under the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program, Home Investment Partnership Home Program, and Emergency Solutions Grant ESG program for the period beginning January 1st, 2013, by decreasing funding for various programs to account for deficiencies in the City of Scranton's line of credit with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, due to unplanned payments in various Section 108 loans guaranteed by the City of Scranton in the amount of $1,662,043.98.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to table items 6A and 6B per the 30-day public comment period that OECD is required.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of tabling items 6A and 6B signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file of the Council number 23, 2014, creating and establishing special city account number as noted, entitled Community Surveillance Network System for the receipt and disbursement of grant funds received for the acquisition and installation of the Community Surveillance Network System at Scranton Police Headquarters.
What is the recommendation of the Chair for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file of the Council number 24, 2014, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to apply for and execute a grant application, and if successful, a grant agreement, and accept the funds related thereto through the BJA FY14 Edward Byrne Justice Assistant Grant, JAG program, local solicitation, in the amount of $23,898.
What is the recommendation of the Chair for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, file of the Council number 25, 2014, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the City of Scranton to enter into a lease agreement with the Scranton School District for use of city-owned property in connection with approved Westside High School soccer teams for a 3-year period commencing April 15, 2014 and ending April 14, 2017.
As Chair for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, file of the Council number 26, 2014, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the City of Scranton to enter into a lease agreement with the Scranton Youth Soccer for the use of city-owned property in connection with approved Scranton Youth Soccer for a 3-year period commencing April 15, 2014 and ending April 14, 2017.
As Chair for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file of the Council number 27, 2014, amending file of the Council number 75, 2012, an ordinance as amended, entitled An Ordinance to Provide Revenue for the City of Scranton by imposing a tax upon the privilege of attending or engaging in non-exempt amusements, including every form of entertainment, diversion, sport, recreation, and pastime, requiring all persons, partnerships, associations, and corporations conducting places of amusements, imposing duties and conferring powers upon the treasurer of the City of Scranton, prescribing the method and manner of collecting the tax imposed by this ordinance, and imposing penalties for the violation thereof by amending Section 4 definitions, place of amusement.
What is the recommendation of the Chair for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahan?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted. If there is no further business, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.